all of us.
Okay, so we are talking with the amazing Nicole Richie. I am so excited because I feel like I've watched you grow in so many spaces, and I'm a big fan of yours. I love you, and
Joyce,
you are just
I'm
amazing.
a big fan of yours, as you know. You businesswoman, super mom, mother of 6. Like, I can't even believe it.
Thank you. But
So
you're a
crazy.
unicorn. You're a unicorn. So we're
Thank
going to
you.
talk about you, and we're going to keep it focused on you and the amazing things that you're doing. I wanted to start off with a question that everybody loves, which is how do you balance work and personal life? Because you're a mom, and you really are an amazing mother.
Well, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. Funny you ask, because I feel like every time we see each other, the first thing we break down is like, okay, how are we doing it? You know, I feel like that's like when mothers get together, they're like, do you have help? What are the hours? How do you like figure out the morning? Like, and you know, it's like putting together a puzzle that like only you have the answer to, you know, and like, thank God I have an amazing, supportive husband and father of my kids, and he helps as well. And like, you know, it really is a balancing act, and it's never one way. It's not like one trick or doing one thing. It changes probably every year. You know, you're like, okay, now I think I'm going to try it this way. It feels like it's like an ongoing process. Do you feel like that? Well, you keep having kids. I've only had 2, but I feel like.
No, I think that's a really good, and that's really good advice, because to assess yourself, like, while you're going through the years, I think is a really good one. You're never really stuck with something.
Yeah, because your kids grow also, and your needs change, and as they get older, you know, perhaps you're getting more independent as a parent, and you know, it's always changing. I started House of Harlow the year my daughter Harlow was born, so I was working out of my house. Like, I was like, I can't leave. I'm nursing. You know, I was just like there all the time, and basically just answering emails and questions, and, you know, had people come to the house and work out of my house, and then couldn't take that anymore after 3 or 4 years. I was like, okay, I have to get out of the house. And then you move your business out, move my business outside. And, you know, so it's like things like that, like, you know, it's like as your family grows and changes, you know, you just kind of like work it out.
I'm so proud of you for House of Harlow too. It's unbelievable to see where it
you.
started and where it's going. What are some of the exciting things that you're doing, and what kind of keeps you fueled and passionate about it all the time?
So I just releasing now, which is so exciting. House of Harlow has been around for, it'll be 10 years next year, which is so exciting. It's a birthday. And you know, it is a business, and as wonderful as a business is, it's so important, and we've talked about this before too. It's so important to have, you know, a part that you truly feel like you are just being 100% creative, you know? So for example, I've been making fine jewelry, just crystals, for my girlfriends for about 5 years, like not even selling them.
Yeah, that's
just
like a total
them.
you thing.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just me. Like, I'm not answering to anyone or showing them to buyers. Like, it just is what it is. And then, you know, it was like a perfect combination of just the world changing and being able to have something like, you know, your own website, for example, that didn't exist really. You know, the e-commerce business was not what it was 10 years ago. So, you know, to have that combined with like just a bunch of things of me feeling like, okay, I'm ready to release this into the world. I've now started releasing them solely on my website, and they're just this like limited release thing that I have that's just like very much from my hands to the customers. You know, it's like every piece is one of a kind. And it's really special to me, and it's not my biggest moneymaker, obviously, but it really like feeds my creativity, which you need to do if you are going to run a business.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point, because even in House of Harlow, I mean, you started with apparel. No, you started with jewelry.
I started with costume
and then
jewelry,
you had apparel, and then you have now footwear. And now to see you do fine, it's interesting because a lot of people lay down a business and then they go back to like the passion points.
Yeah.
And they bring them back in the business. And that's what really the customer wants from you.
Totally.
the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important that your customer still feels like you are in it, you know, and knows that you're giving the same energy, the same creative energy as you did when you first started.
I find you to be really spiritual. That's one of the things I love about you. I feel like you're very connected as a woman, as a mother, as an entrepreneur. You really go with your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Does your spirituality and your kind of instinct take you always to the right, to the right path in business?
Does it always take me to the right path? I wouldn't necessarily say always, but at the same time, it took a while for me to even have confidence in my own instincts also. So like over the course of running this business, have I made choices that didn't instinctually feel great, that I, was more of just a solid business decision? Yeah. And that hasn't always worked out either, So I wish that I could say that I would have done something different to boost my confidence 8 years ago. But I really think for me, especially, like it was just time.
Yeah, you grow into it.
I just grew into trusting my own instincts and, really deciding, listen, there's 9 million ways to run a business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can you can want to make hundreds of millions of dollars. You could want to make a few $1 million. Like, you can really set this up however you want. But part of that is like, for me, how do you want to spend your time?
Right.
And that's really important to me as well. So
how do you spend your time? How do you know like how to allocate? What's enough time to the business, and how do you turn off and then go home? And
turning off and going home is not always the smoothest
transition.
Yeah. And like I feel like the only times I've made a hard line and said, oh, I am not I'm not going to focus on work has been like out of like anger or something. You know what I mean? Like it's never
over.
Yeah. Like it's never in a healthy way. But the two bleed together and but like at the same time, it's so funny because when I had babies, I was like kept everything very separate. Work and family were separate things. But I like my kids seeing that I work and seeing how hard, not even hard, but like what the process is of making things come to life and what that means.
It's humbling and grounding.
Yeah. And it's part of life, and so I like for them to, see me working and, that part of it, there are some parts of it that aren't necessarily the most soulful, but like, focusing on work at home, like isn't necessarily a bad thing,
Right.
There are parts of this business that are really exciting and really special. And like, I'm not against bringing work home.
It's funny because I totally remember years ago when we would talk about your business and you would even, leave a conversation and go home, and I would see you really, really be that mom that you are. And you're right, that segmentation was so important to you. And as they grow and as you grow into the comfort and into the confidence, kind of meshing them together, slowly is important.
Yeah, I feel like you were actually one of the first people to talk to me about that, because you have so many kids and work with your husband and, and I remember you saying like, yeah, you can't always turn off, but like, there's no shame in having a job and being driven and like wanting to provide for your family, and to have to bring that home, is just like, it's not, it doesn't necessarily always have to be so black and white separate.
It's true. It's really true. And I talk to a lot of young entrepreneurs too, who say like they kind of don't want to get caught up with marriage and kids because they really want to concentrate on developing themselves and their career. And when I find myself, and when I find my career, and when I'm established in my career, then I can go get married and then I can have kids. And here you are, like a full-on entrepreneur, a creative, an actress, a mom, a wife. How does your relationship with Joel, how does that help you in your work? Like, I feel like you did it a totally different way.
Well, I feel like if I didn't have kids and you said to me right now, are you ready to have kids? I'd probably be like, no, I mean, I don't think that like, I don't know if we're ever going to, I can only speak for myself, but like, am I ever going to feel like, oh, I'm at this place now where I know everything. And so I'm now ready to have kids. There's so much that you learn about yourself through having kids, you know, and seeing and learning about yourself through these little eyes that watch you all day long, you know, and these little human beings that like possibly see you a totally different way than you've ever seen yourself. And like applying that part of yourself to your business also.
They challenge you to grow.
Yeah, totally. And inspire you on such a different level and could introduce you to things even aesthetically that like you didn't even necessarily like, and now you do, and you're like, oh, I'm really into this purple that my daughter's obsessed with, you know, and like, oh, I think I want to bring that into my collection. It can all bleed together.
Totally.
You know, I don't think there's such thing, especially for a young person, to, you know, feel like they're done growing.
Are there other industries that kind of inspire you? Like your husband's industry is very, it's very close to fashion.
Yes.
But I remember like when you were working on House of Harlow and kind of re-strategizing and thinking about how you were going to evolve the business, he was involved.
Yes.
Is that a yes or is that a no in terms of like husbands kind of helping us on our journey, you know?
You know, it's so important to understand what you're good at. And it's also equally as important to understand the parts that, you know, you need some help in. And, you know, Joel has been that person for me. You know, I am a creative and a business person. I had to learn how to run a business. That didn't come naturally to me.
Right. And you really did. That's something you really flexed, like you were really working that muscle out. You know?
Yes, totally. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. And to, you know, ask my partner in life to step in and, you know, help me out in certain ways is really amazing, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think in my business, you know, people ask me, well, you know, your husband's like, maybe not specific to what you do in fashion. I'm like, but exactly that. I share everything in my life with him.
Yeah, we share everything.
Exactly. So. And his advice and his opinion is the one that's closest to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so even, I think it's healthy also to get outside perspective, even from people in different industries. Like I know I've gone to you for things, you've come to me for things. Like we always share no matter what. And I think it strengthens you as an entrepreneur to know that there's people that you can talk to about whatever you are, you know, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. And I think, and tell me if you feel differently, but I feel like the biggest fight in this industry is like just a constant challenge to keep your DNA and to keep your signature. And like going to a bunch of outside companies, call it, or, you know, just relying on people that are not necessarily close to you is the fastest way to do that. And so I think, and I found that, you know, having people like my husband and my children around me, and having my husband, you know, have his hand in my business really just helps me keep my roots in the ground, you know?
Keeps you grounded.
Totally.
Keeps you grounded. I love that. Did you ever feel stuck in business, and kind of how do you work your way out of things?
Yes, I have felt stuck in business. I am so lucky to have friends like Joyce Azria, who I name drop all the time. I name drop you like you're Michael Jackson. I do. I'm like, oh, do you know Joyce Azria of Eclay Fee? I'm friends with her. Who thank God I have girlfriends that I admire and respect and really look up to, that, you know, I can sit across from and be very open about the current state of my business and get other opinions. And on top of that, you'll notice that you get like 5 different opinions from people that you are the closest from. And then it goes back to,
what do you think?
What do you want? Yeah.
What do you want? You know, it's so important as an entrepreneur to always define it. And even though people might take you out of yourself so you can look at yourself in a different way, or what you're working on in a different way, you always end up coming back to the voice that sounds the loudest to you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You know? Did you have something that you wanted to kind of be when you were, you know, growing up? Is there something that you said, I want to do this when I'm an adult, and how did that change?
Yes. I wanted to be in musical theater, and then I wanted to be Britney Spears' backup dancer.
But you're kind of both.
Yeah. And I was going to say, so I'm not even saying no to either, because those are still, you know, lifetime goals for me.
Yes. Bucket list.
Yeah, totally. But always like, I mean, a performer, that was I had concerts in my room every night where everyone from my family had to come, and I was an only child for a long time. So like everyone would come in my room and they'd do the lighting. I had lighting and I would just, sing and dance. And that was my thing always.
You're such a light and you're really charismatic and you bring in a bunch of people. Like I know when I met you, I was like, oh, like I love her. Like it's so instant with you. And it's so like, even if I don't see you a couple months or whatever, and then I see your face, it's like you're so, you kind of bring people in. How do you kind of filter who you bring in business, and how do you filter who you bring in your personal life? Because at the same time, you're very guarded. You have a very, very close group of people who love you and are loyal to you, and you're so loyal to them. And you're really, I would say you're a very deep friend. I know that if I'd call you, you'd pick up the phone, and I think that that's so important. But how do you weed out the people who are attracted to your energy? Because I could watch something you post on Instagram maybe 800 times because I'm laughing so hard. But how do you kind of like push them out? Or where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line? Well, it's interesting word you used, guarded, because I think that people would associate that with something negative.
No, positive.
And, I think that we need to look at that word as a positive, because being guarded has never been a goal for me. I mean, you asked me when I was 15, who do you want to be? I want to be open, and I want to have friends around me, and I just want to be happy, and I just want like everyone. And that's still very much how I feel. Also, in doing that, you learn that you do have to protect your energy. And, you have to protect it with everything that you have. And when you make that decision, it actually becomes really clear, like who is aligned in that space and who isn't. And that's an ongoing process too, I think, of just understanding for yourself, okay, I want everyone to just be around me and be happy, but I also need to be happy, and I need to hold on to the version of myself that I want to be. So are these people supporting that, or are they not supporting that? Work-wise, it's kind of the same, but I mean, that's like it's a different part of your life also, and so there are times where you're working with someone, you're like, well, this is this is serving a purpose. And
yeah,
but you know what? Like, I think
I'll learn something here.
Yeah.
It's difficult sometimes.
Well, and I'm such an empath, and I talk about you with our friend Sophia Rossi all the time, because I have gone through a phase of, everyone's energy. It's like a blanket on me. I just wear it all day long. I'm just like, here I am, with everyone's everything all over me. And then had to make a real, kind of like hard line of like, this is what I'm down to be around, and this is what I'm not. And, really focusing, on exactly where I wanted to be, which is great. And then, but the next step is what I tell Sophia is like Joyce vibes of just like actually so strong in her own energy that like, I feel like the worst people could come around you and like, you're fine. It's actually like what you're giving them, which is great.
I hope so. I mean, I kind of subscribe to that same thing where I look at guarded as a really positive thing, because I think that you're protecting really what you want to create around you.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's people who just aren't happy for you, and they don't want to see you succeed.
And creating the life that you want is also not easy,
It's
so
not.
like if it was, everyone would do it, so like, having to be, almost aggressive with what and who you're around is part of, just taking your life seriously. That's not a bad thing.
Totally. I wish people would put as much effort. I feel like a lot of people put a lot of effort into other people's lives.
Yeah.
And, the energy of like, oh, this one, and what's this person doing, and this person, and they're very, kind of nervous of what people will think. And if they spend as much time planning their own life and taking it seriously, I think it's true. Like, you are actually building a life from the time you're young, the decisions that you make, the people that you meet, the people that you let in. It's all a part of how you build yourself.
Totally.
So it's so important. It's so important. what does success mean to you? Like, is there like a place that you get to that's success, or is it kind of an everyday work? What is successful balance between,
Well, to me personally, I have had moments of success that I wasn't necessarily connected to, and it's nice. It's like a nice Reese's Pieces peanut butter cup,
Okay.
It's great, and it like lasts for about 4 minutes, and it's it's
delicious.
it is what it is.
Delicious.
It's delicious. And then, what do you have after? Nothing.
The
So
wrapper.
just the
You're
wrapper. It's so much more satisfying to me to be connected to something, whether it's at that level of success or not, that like I was 100% in. So like, I'm less afraid of failure if I'm giving every part of myself to that, because then I can own the failure and like, that's what it is. But like having moments of both, I can tell you that like personally for me, I need to like be 100% into what I'm doing.
I always say that to my team. I say, if you put in 100% in the input and the output is not what we expected, it's still successful.
You'll at least be able to stand behind it,
exactly.
And like
exactly.
maybe it'll work somewhere else. Yeah.
We'll bring it back later. Yes. I still love the idea. Exactly.
It so doesn't feel good to do something just based off of, someone telling you that it's going to work. And then, by the way, if it doesn't, that's really a bummer,
It's true.
Because it wasn't your decision.
It's true.
That's like, trust me, that's not the move.
Tell me, your DNA is so, it's so bohemian. It is so free. It is that part of you that's so beautiful, and the colors and the nostalgia and that kind of old flair, that 70s. I mean, it has like such a feeling. How did you develop this DNA, this ability to style, this, who you are? Is this something that you were born with, and it's the Nicole Richie factor?
I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, I do love color. Color plays a very important role in my life. Even when I was a teenager and playing with hair color, I mean, I would dye my hair dark. And then after a few months, I was like, I'm getting really depressed, and I would have to go back to having light hair again. And I like really understood the power of colors around me, and like how they really played a role into my emotions. I don't even know if that's connected to, why I love so much color in my clothing, although I'm not wearing much color.
Although you're pretty much pastels and like denim and black when I see this.
Yes. But I don't know. I just go based on like what I'm drawn to, and like what I'm comfortable in. I'm 5'1", so like I can't say like, oh, this looks great on everybody else. It's probably gonna look good on me. I had to like figure out my zone for myself.
What does it feel like being a girl in business? Is it an advantage?
I think it's really fun. It's an advantage right now in 2018. We are very hot.
We're hot.
Yeah.
This is a big moment for the woman.
It sucks to be a white male.
No. I would just say that women have always been successful to me. I grew up with my mother, and my mother was an at-home mom, but I always saw her as so successful in all the efforts that she made.
Yeah.
So I think in today's day and age, like being a woman is the hot topic. Do you feel, I don't know, for me, I feel like when I go into a business meeting, I have a better way to gauge the room, and I'm a little more emotional, and I'm a little more sensitive, and those help me to make decisions, those kinds of.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like to walk into those rooms that you're talking about, for many years, I was like, okay, I have to pretend to be somebody I'm not when I'm in those rooms, because it's all men and they're serious and they're in suits, and like, you're their 15th meeting of the day. And like, to let that go and to just, this is not advice, okay, but it has happened.
Advice.
This is not advice. Like, I'm not saying do it, but I have it in a meeting and I'm like, I just think it'd be really cute if we did this, and just like owning that sentence is so not how I would ever walk into a room, but that's how I felt at the time. Yeah. And you know what? He got it, because it was truthful in my eyes and on my face when I said it. And like, you just have to like walk in and be 100% you. So like, there are some very feminine parts of, about me. Totally. And like, that's just what I have to lean into. So that's just who I am.
We are definitely huge fans. Me, my family, we love you. And I feel really, really touched that you got to spend a little time with us and tell us about your journey.
I'm so excited.
Love you so much.
Love you.
Thank you. You are the best. You are seriously the best.
That was so cute.
You are so the
I
best. It's
Hate
easy.
listening
That
to
was
my
very
voice.
cute, very real.